Welcome to Lingua Latina Tutorials with Mr. K, Pensvm D. This video explains the new grammar and syntax found in Chapter 19 of the Lingua Latina per se Illustrata series. It is meant to accompany the Latina Disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensvm D worksheets available from 50%latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get right into the text and look at the new grammar and syntax in this chapter. Let's look at line 5 to begin. And we have, let's start in line 3 here. Tectum per stili, altis columnis sustenetur inter quas tria pulchra signa stant, unum Junonis, alterum Cupidinis, tertium Veneris. So we have that the roof of the peristyle is held up by tall columns, between which there are among which there are three beautiful statues. One of Juno, another of Cupid, a third of Venus. So we have here the genitives of the names of these three gods and goddesses. In the margin we see Juno, Junonis, Juno being the nominative dictionary form, and this is the Greek goddess Hera, wife of Greek god Zeus, the Roman god Jupiter or Eupiter. Cupid, nominative Cupido, genitive Cupidinis, and that is Cupid, also known by the Greek name Eros. And then Veneris from Venus. Venus, nominative, Veneris, genitive, and this is the goddess of love, the Greek goddess Aphrodite. And in this same passage we see the name of the god of war, Mars, Martis, and we also see Vulcanus Vulcani, the god of fire or god of blacksmiths. Okay, so let's look at our next feature in line 11, where we have sed Jupiter malus maritus est, qui mutas alias deas amat praeter Junonem conjugem suam. So we have, but Jupiter is a bad husband who loves many other goddesses besides Juno, his wife. We see in the margin that Jupiter is the nominative. We know him by the name Jupiter. And that Jovis, or Jovis in English, this is the genitive of Jupiter. So Jupiter is only found in the nominative form, and after Jupiter, the rest of his name declines as Jovis. So if we were going to fully decline, it would be Jupiter, Jowem, Jovis, and then Yowi and Yowe. The name itself, Jove or Jove means sky, and then Piter is short for pater, meaning father. So he's the god of the sky, or sky father. That's the derivation of his name. Okay, the next feature I want to point out is in line 14, and we see here that Nemo deorum peor maritus est quam Jupiter, neque ulla dea peor uxor est quam Venus. So none of the gods is a worse husband than Jupiter, and there's not any goddess who is a worse wife than Venus. So in the margin we see that neque ulla, and there is not any goddess, is the equivalent of et nullus, and there is no goddess worse. The Romans did not like to put et in front of any kind of a negative word. That's why we have neque. Neque is just et non. Et non. They didn't like to say that, so they would say neque. And they also didn't like to say et nullus, because nullus was a negative word, so they would say neque ulla, or neque ullus. The next feature I want to point out is in this same section, the section I just read, and is the adjective peor. none of the gods is a worse husband. So worse, peor, does not look anything like it's. This is the comparative form, meaning so it's worse. But so the positive form in English would be bad, bad, worse, and worst for the superlative. But those forms, just like in English, they don't look the same. Bad and worse look nothing alike. Same thing in Latin, malus and peor. So bad, malus, peor, worse, and pessimus, look very different. In this chapter, we're going to learn many adjectives that form their comparatives and superlatives in highly irregular ways. And so those sections you need to pay very close attention to, and pay special attention to memorizing those forms, because they are so common, and the fact that they are so common is one of the reasons that they're irregular. They held on to irregular forms rather than becoming regularized over time. So the next feature I want to point out is in line 19, and we see this sentence, matres familias unionem invocant, enim dea est matronarum. So the mothers of the family call upon Juno, for she is the goddess of mothers. And matres familias, the mothers of the family, this is an old formula for a specific, a kind of a position of authority in the family. The pater familias and the mater familias had certain rights and privileges in Roman law, so it's a legal term. And notice how familias, it's an archaic, it's an ancient genitive form, the long os ending. It looks like an accusative form, but it's actually a genitive, so literally mothers of the family. And when you decline this phrase, the familias does not change. So if you were going to decline mater familias, it would be mater familias accusative, matrem familias staying the same, and then matris familias, etc. So it's going to, mater is going to decline normally, and familias will stay the same. So like mother of the family, accusative, object, matrem familias, and then genitive of the mother of the family, matris familias, etc. Same thing applies to pater familias. It follows exactly the same rules. In line 25, we see this sentence, certe Julius maritus melior quam Jupiter est. Certainly Julius is a better husband than Jupiter. Julius is a better husband than Jupiter. Melior being the comparative adjective, better. And what is the positive form in English of better? It is good. And so in the margin we see the positive, comparative, and superlative of good. Bonus positive. Comparative, melior, for the masculine and feminine, and melius for the neuter, and optimus for the superlative, the best. Good, better, and best. Again, highly irregular, needs to be carefully memorized. The next feature is in line 30, where we have Item Julius uxorem suam optimam omnium feminarum vocat. So likewise Julius calls his wife the optimam omnium feminarum, the best of all women. And so this form, omnium feminarum, is genitive in case of all women. It is a partitive, or a genitive of the whole, with the superlative. Superlatives often, if you are going to take a genitive construction, a partitive genitive construction, the best of these things. Just like you would have pars, and then of these things, part of all of them. Pars omnium, or partem omnium. You have optimam omnium, the best of all of them. The next feature is in line 32, where we have a duorum filiorum et unius filii. So Julius and Aemilia are the parents of 3 children, of 2 sons and of 1 daughter, unius filii. unius with filii, notice how different these endings look. Unius, in the margin, it tells you that it declines in an irregular way. Unus aum is one of a group of adjectives that have an irregular declension that have a genitive ius, eus ending, and they have a dative long I. So you'll need to learn these declensions separately. They're mostly regular, it's just that genitive and dative singular that changes, but they're very common adjectives, so they come up all the time. So the way we would decline unus, and because this is only found in the singular, because you only have one of something, it's unus, unum, unius, uni, uno. Feminine form, una, unam, unius, uni, uno. And neuter, unum, unum, unius, uni, uno. There are several other adjectives that decline like that, and the best way to remember those is through the acronym unus nauta, which means one sailor. But each letter in that unus nauta acronym stands for one of these special adjectives, starting with unus, meaning one, nullus, meaning no, ullus, meaning any, solus, meaning alone or only, nuter, meaning neither, alter, meaning either, uter, meaning each, totus, meaning every, and alius, meaning the other. So that acronym, if you learn that acronym, it'll help you to recognize those adjectives that have that strange genitive and dative singular form. The next feature is in line 33, where we have quintus est puer septem annorum. And just before that we had Marcus octo annos habet. So Marcus has 8 years, meaning Marcus is 8 years old. That's one way of saying how old someone is. Marcus has this. Another way is to say Quintus is a boy of 7 years. So we could say the same thing about Marcus. Marcus est puer octo annorum. Annorum is genitive plural of years. Literally, Quintus is a boy of 7 years, but we would say Quintus is a 7-year-old boy. This is the genitive of description. It's one of those specially named syntactic structures. So you should learn the name for this, and also that this is one way of describing a person is with a genitive phrase after the noun. Boy of this thing. The next feature is in line 36, and we see that Quintus major est quam Julia et minor quam Marcus. So Quintus is bigger than Julia and smaller than Marcus. And in the margin we see that these are more irregular adjectives. Major coming from magnus, minor coming from parvus. So magnus being big, great, large, big. So major, masculine, feminine, bigger, maius, bigger in the neuter, and then maximus aum, the biggest or the greatest. Parvus being small, minor, smaller, and minimus, the smallest. The next feature we have is in line 43. We have domus eorum non proculaberat ab alia domo, in qua Julius cum parentibus suis habitabat. So that phrase, we have their house was not far from the other house in which Julius used to live with his parents. So the case number and gender of domo, this is an ablative singular, but what's unusual about it is you see in the margin that domus is a fourth declension noun, like manus. And so you would expect a long U as the ablative, domu. But domus is an irregular fourth declension noun, and also very, very common. and so you'll need to learn the few exceptions to its declension. One exception that will give you the full declension, and then explain the exceptions. So domus, nominative, domum, accusative, those are regular. The genitive, domi, with a long I, means at home. It's the locative form. Genitive is locative, tells you the location. So to say that somebody is at home, you would say domi. Then domui, dative, that's regular. Domo, here we have the ablative singular exception, the second exception. So we've got domi at home, domo from the home. The plural, domus, normal. Accusative, domos, that is irregular. Genitive, plural, domorum, also irregular, though sometimes it does show up in the regular form of domum. And then domibus, domibus, those are regular, and the dative and ablative. So you should practice that declension, make sure that you know the exceptions for the noun domus. The next feature is in line 52, and we see in pallatio sunt domus magnificae, and this is not the part that we wanted to do. We want to do, here we go, Romae plures homines habitant quam in ulla alia urbe imperii Romani. So in Rome, more people live than in any other city of the Roman Empire. So plures, plures, another one of our irregular adjectives, it means more. It comes from multi, many. So we have multi in the dictionary, many. Its comparative form, plures, more, and plurimi, the most. Plurimi, ia. Notice that these only show up in the plural, because you can't have one many of anything. You can't have many of one thing. So you're going to have only plural forms for plures. The next feature I want to point out is in line 58. We have Roma urbs maxima atque pulcherrima est totius imperii Romani. So Rome is the biggest and most beautiful city of the whole Roman Empire. Totius here is genitive in case, but it doesn't look like that. It's another one of those unus nauta nouns that you should memorize from that acronym. It is the T in nauta. Totius. So totus, nominative, and then it would, and then totum, accusative, would be regular, and then totius toti for the genitive and dative cases. In line 93, we have another new feature. Let's go to 93, and we see tum Aemilia quae verbis Julii delectatur, o Juli inquit me optime vir. So then Aemilia, who is pleased by the words of Julius, says, "O Julius, my very good husband," or my excellent husband, literally best husband. So two things I want to point out here. One is the vocative case. Vocative case is the case we don't usually memorize on our list because it normally doesn't change for your nouns. Feminine nouns don't change at all. Masculine nouns, the names of men that end in us turn to a short e, like we see optime here. Optimus becomes optime. Marcus becomes marque. Quintus becomes quinte. Short e on the end when you're calling out to a man with an us ending name. And then there are two other things that change though. So besides us names turning to eus names like Julius, ius names turn into a long I. Juli is actually a contraction of Julia. So Julia with a short e becomes Juli. And then another thing that happens is meus. Meus, which would be me, but they contracted the together to form me. So the vocative of meus is me, mi Yuli. You see the same thing for filius becomes fili, mi fili, my son, and optime the us becomes s. So all of these are vocative case here when she's calling out to, and vocative comes from wokat, to call. And so, oh my excellent husband Julius, all vocatives. And then I want to point out also this optime, the superlative optimus, all by itself, when it doesn't have a genitive, the most excellent of these things, or there's no clear comparison between Julius and another husband, we often will translate it as what we call an absolute superlative, being just translated as very, very something. My very excellent, or my very good husband, my best husband, you might say, but it doesn't. You don't have to translate the superlative as a best something or as an est word. You can just say very much this thing. The next feature I want to point out is in line 98, and that is where we have nam tum ego te amabam, tu me non amabas. For then I used to love you, or I was loving you, you weren't loving me. This is a brand new tense, amabam. Okay, we see ba. This is an indicator of the imperfect tense. So far we've only covered the present tense, and then we did see the imperfect of sum with erat. But here we're going to be introduced to the full imperfect tense, which is a tense that is describing events in the past as if you were watching them in a movie. Think about the imperfect as a movie from the past, or a home movie showing a sequence of things happening. It's actually a moving picture from the past, as opposed to a tense we're going to learn later where it's more like a snapshot from the past. For now, just think about it as a movie from the past. And so I used to love you, so you can imagine him doing things in the past to show that, or him kind of pining about, Amelia, and then her rejecting him. So she non amabas. The conjugation of amo amare, if we add all of our endings for the imperfect, so we want to say I was loving, you were loving, he, she, it was loving, we were loving, you all were loving, they were loving, in Latin would be amabam, amabas, amabat, amabamus, amabatis, amabant. The endings are bam, bas, bat, bamus, batis, bant. And for the other conjugations, as we look in 98 through 105, we do see examples of all four conjugations. Remember that the four conjugations are ara, era, and ira verbs. So an example of second conjugation, era verb, we see here with widebas. Notice that the endings here, we have the long e before bam, bas, bat, so it would be widebam, widebas, widebat, widebamus, widebatis, widebant. Looking for an era verb, we see scribebam from scribera, to write, and then legebas from legera, to read. So if we're going to conjugate these, notice the long e again before bas, or long e before bam. So the endings here are abam, abas, abat, abamus, abatis, abant. So legebam, legebas, legebat, legebamus, legebatis, legebant. And then for a fourth conjugation verb, we have one here. We're looking for an ira verb, I-R-E verb, and we see dormiebam. It's from dormira, to sleep. So this will notice that the I is still present in front of the E. So it's not dormibam, but rather dormiebam. Dormiebam, dormiebas, dormiebat, dormiebamus, dormiebatis, dormiebant. The next feature I want to point out is in line 136. So let's go down here, and we see right here, we see matrona tam pulcra est quam virgo eras, mea Amelia. Certainly, Julia says, you are as beautiful a woman, a matrona, means a woman who's had children. You are as beautiful a matron as you were a young maiden, my Amelia. Virgo is an unmarried girl. And so, Tom Quam, as beautiful as you were. So you are now as beautiful, there's S, present tense, as eras, you used to be as a maiden. So here is our imperfect. We've seen this before with erat, third person. Now we see it in the second person singular. So if we were going to conjugate eros in the imperfect tense fully, so I was, you were, he, she, it was, we were, you all were, they were, it would be eram, eros, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. The next feature I want to point out is in line 192. It's the last new grammar feature, and we have to go into our grammatica to see this. We see it here in this line. We'll start with 191. Julius magistrum suum non timebat, sed ipse a magistro timebatur. So Julius was not afraid of his teacher, but he himself was feared by his teacher. The imperfect passive, notice that it still has, this is an example of a third person singular imperfect passive indicative verb. So notice it still has ba, but then it adds the passive ending of tour. Remember the passive personal endings of ar, ris, tour, muer, mini, untour. Here we see them added to ba. So bar, baris, batur, ba, muer, ba, mini, bantur. And so if we're going to conjugate this fully, timebar, I was being feared. And notice here it's under the second conjugation in the margin. Timebar, timebaris, timebatur, timebamur, timebamini, timebantur. We would translate that as I was being feared, you were being feared, he, she, it was being feared, we were being feared, you all were being feared, they were being feared. Remember that the difference between the active and the passive is just whether the action is going out of the subject or whether it is going back into the subject. So if I was afraid, basically my fear is going out, then it would be time bam. I was afraid of things. But if the fear is coming back toward me, so I'm receiving that fear, time bar, I was being feared. That means other people are afraid of me. Very different idea, right? Time bam, I feared people outside of me. I was afraid. Time bar, I was being feared. In other words, other people were afraid of me. Okay, and notice all here that we have for the, just like we saw for bomb, boss, bot, the active, we also see the a bar, a baris, a batur showing up in the second, third, and fourth conjugations, whereas in the first conjugation we have the long a bar, a baris, a batur, etc. So those are all the brand new features for chapter 19.